Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, may you be well, happy, and peaceful. We are going to have a Dhamma discussion, and the topic is growing in joy, peace, and wisdom. Reflections on words of truth. Now, in this presentation, we are going to reflect on a number of verses from the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada is one of the important Buddhist scriptural books from the Khuddaka. Now, you know the Nikayas have these sets of books, the long discourses, Digha Nikaya, the middle length discourses, Majjhima Nikaya, and then you have the gradual sayings, Anguttara Nikaya, then Samyutta Nikaya, the kindred sayings, and then the last set, the Khuddaka. And in the Khuddaka is one of the very popular books, the scriptural book we know as the Dhammapada. In the Dhammapada, you have more than 400 verses uttered by the Buddha, and these verses have very good Dhamma messages and teachings. So for this presentation, I have selected a number of verses covering various areas. Now in Dhammapada, you have various chapters covering issues like old age, the mind, mindfulness, happiness, and so on. So it is a very important scriptural book for us to constantly refer to and reflect on the verses and apply the teachings in our everyday life. And we will grow in joy, peace, and wisdom in the mind. Now in this presentation, which will be in English completely, the texts are in English and also in Chinese. The Chinese is translated using Google Translation, mostly, but some actually are from the internet, the verses in Chinese. So we hope we can learn a lot of good Dhamma and reflect on them and then to actualize them in the book. Now, as usual, we will launch the PowerPoint and discuss the various verses from the Dhammapada. Now, before that, let me check the setup. It is okay. So now let us launch the PowerPoint. That is the cover slide for this presentation, which I have titled, Growing in Joy, Peace, and Wisdom. All of us want happiness, joy, peace in the mind, and wisdom, isn't it? So one of the very important methods is to go over the teachings of the Buddha constantly, reflect or contemplate on them, and to actualize in the mind through application in our lives. So that is this cover slide. Then I have taken the pictures from one of the Dhammapada books, and they show the various stories that are in the Dhammapada. But for this presentation, we are not using the stories. We are going directly to the words of the Buddha and do discussion and reflection on them. All right. So now let us move to the first of the Dhammapada verses. This is the first one. That is from verse 270 of the Dhammapada. And you have actually various translations from the Pali. So many books of the Dhammapada, different versions of translations. But the message basically is the same. It's the use of the English words or the Chinese words. Now let us look at this. Verse 270. One is not called noble who harms living beings. By not harming living beings, one is called noble. Now, you find this a very important Dhamma teaching. And that is not to hurt, to harm, or to torture and cause pain to all living beings. Not only just human beings, but also the animals, for example, in the animal kingdom. Giving pain, hurt to other beings will have the karmic consequences. You will see that when the vipaka, the results come because of the bad karmic actions of causing pain, then suffering follows. Now, in each of these slides showing the Dhammapada verse, I have done some reflection and have put it in a Dhamma couplet form. Now, let us go over this and discuss. When one causes hurt or pain to others constantly, he'll suffer here and the hereafter undoubtedly. Now, I think I have posted one story from the Dhammapada about a butcher who earned his living for many, many years by killing and sometimes also maybe torturing or causing pain to the animals before they are killed and slaughtered. So, of course, you know, the animals, the pigs, in this case here, suffered a lot of pain and they would squeal and cry, you know, before they are slaughtered. So this particular butcher constantly did this. So during his last, or maybe months, so he had to suffer a lot. Great pain and dukkha, right? So in this life itself, you see later on, the karmic results already show up. And, you know, the story you can check up, I think it's on the internet, YouTube, about what Buddha said, that bad deeds bring suffering. And he was reborn, of course, in the woeful state. So this is very important for us to keep in mind. Sometimes young people do not know and they like to catch, you know, small animals, insects, like butterflies or dragonflies I've seen during my younger days, and start pulling off the legs and the wings, and that is terrible. This causes pain. What happens if somebody, you know, cuts your hand or pulls your hair? You also get the pain, isn't it? So you should not do something that you do not want that thing to be done upon you. Confucius said that. Do not do unto others what you do not want others to do unto you, isn't it? So this is very important for us to reflect and also to teach, especially the younger ones. Of course, the opposite should be practiced. We should be kind, compassionate, right? And also full of metta, loving kindness for all the beings, people as well as animals. Now, so that is the first one, Dhammapada 270. Now, let us go on to the next one. This is from Dhammapada verse 227. Now, let me read what the Buddha said first in this Dhammapada verse 227 before we have a discussion. They blame those who remain silent. They blame those who speak much. They blame those who speak in moderation. There is none in the world who is not blamed. That's what the Buddha said. And how very true this is. That all beings in our samsara, right, in this world of suffering, no one is free from blame. In fact, I have posted one topic called the 8 worldly wings. And in the 8 worldly wings, you have things like happiness and sorrow, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. Then you have gain and loss. Sometimes you gain a lot of money or possessions, sometimes you lose. And then you have praise and blame. This is referring to one of the 8 worldly conditions. Sometimes you get praise, but sometimes also you get blamed. And the last set is actually honor and dishonor. Now let us concentrate on this. Even the enlightened ones, the arahants, the saints are not free from being blamed even though they are enlightened. What more about we worlings, full of defilements, full of bad qualities in our mind? So when we reflect on this, we can actually learn very important Dhamma. But when the Buddha was blamed, in fact, he was blamed by one lady of making her pregnant. Of course, there was a false lie. Later on, everything was revealed that it was not true. The Buddha did not react. He did not get angry. He remained just very, very calm, very, very composed, and full of equanimity. And also, at one stage when he went for his alms rounds, approaching the Brahmin house, and the Brahmin abused him, said words which were not very proper. But the Buddha did not, sort of react in a negative manner. He just asked the Brahmin very, very gently. He said, if someone were to come to visit your house and you welcome him and offers him food, drinks, and so on, if that person does not want to receive your food and drinks, what would you do? And the Brahmin said, then I'll take back all these things. So the Buddha said, just now you said certain words, right, which were abusive and so on. I do not accept them. So he was trying to teach a very important Dhamma lesson, isn't it? So you see that we can be subjected to such situations. People blame us, people abuse us, say terrible things about us. Now, our attitude should be this. If what is being said is true, then perhaps we should admit and apologize. So we reflect. But if what is being said is not true, it doesn't apply to you, then why should you react? That person who says the wrong things, abusive speech, he bears his own karma. But your mind remains calm and peaceful, not getting angry or hateful of a mind of revenge, then you don't generate any bad karma. The karma is his. So when you train the mind like this, you can be very peaceful. And when I wrote this contemplative verse, I had this in mind actually. Now it reads, those who use unwholesome speech will suffer in due time, to say the least. Wise cultivated ones don't let others shake their mental calm and peace. Now, in fact, I heard Ajahn Brahma said a very important thing. Why let others deeds or others' words disturb your mental peace? Very true. You are in control of your mind, isn't it? So the person that uses the wrong speech has to bear the karmic consequence. So he will have the dukkha later on. His mind is filled with anger, hate, because he's using those terrible words. And those show the negative mental state, isn't it? So this is a very important Dhamma lesson, a teaching from the Buddha for us to contemplate constantly. And then you find that our anger, our hate, our jealousy, our ill will, all these unwholesome states of the mind will go down. Wisdom arises. That's because you understand things clearly. And you know how to respond, not react, but respond in positive ways. So this is verse 227 of the Dhammapada. Of course, there is the Chinese translation, but of course, you just have to read the verse. You won't be able to listen to the detailed discussion. But if you follow English, then you can read as well as contemplate on the discussion. Now, let us go to the next one, that is Dhammapada. What is the verse there? Dhammapada 277. The verse 277. That is a very important Dhamma teaching. one of the most important Dhamma teachings in Buddha's 45 years of ministry of spreading or teaching the Dhamma. Now, Dhammapada 277 reads like this. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees these with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Now, that is a very, very powerful statement. But you have to understand clearly, reflect. For many, many times, I have read this, I don't know how many times already, and reflected, right? Until you can see the thing. There is a transformation in the mind and not just an intellectual understanding. Intellectual understanding is completely different from actual Dhamma realization. When there is Dhamma realization, there is a transformation of your mind. You see things differently already. Whereas if it's just intellectual, then you perhaps understand at the cognitive level, you can get an A if there is an exam on Buddhism. But still, your mind is filled with the defilement of delusion and you still react, you see. So we have to know that in samsara, all things arise and fall. That is a fact. All conditions things, they arise and fall. You look at all things and all phenomena, they do not stay permanent or eternal. They change, right? Seasons change, material things also will wear out, and we also, after birth, you have age, you have aging, you have decay, and you have death. So when you reflect on this, everything is anicca. Anicca means impermanent, right? And this can be seen only through our practice of meditation or constant reflection of the Dhamma. So when you see this very clearly, that all things depend on the conditions in samsara, and they arise and fall, they are impermanent. So then you see, oh, they are impermanent. So why should I cling on and attach to them? They won't be with me always. They will pass. So then you find that you will begin to drop many things. Anger against another person, jealousy against another person, because we are going to die, isn't it? So when we see impermanence, see would mean that when we realize impermanence in our mind, then you will be spurred to practice. Because you know that when you have impermanence now, there will follow dukkha. Because things will not last. So they will end up in a state of unsatisfactoriness. That's dukkha. Then now you will be very motivated to pursue and practice the Dhamma, to go into the unconditioned state, to reach the goal of enlightenment, basically. So what I wrote was this: diligent meditation practice helps one see. See means realize anicca. So may your striving on the Noble Eightfold Path help end dukkha. The path that will lead to the end of dukkha is the Noble Eightfold Path. But some people do not want to walk this path diligently and ardently because they have not seen dukkha. So if they see impermanence, they will see dukkha. And once they see dukkha, then they will be spurred on to actually walk the path, Noble Eightfold Path, with diligence, right? With passion. So this is a very, very important Dhamma teaching for us to reflect constantly. Now let us go on to the next one. Now this is from Dhammapada verse 122. And there are various versions, as I say, but basically it's the same. Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise man, gathering it little by little, fills himself with good. Now, some people think that, I can't do I can't do much to help so many people in the world, to do charity. I have so many commitments and so on, but they don't realize that little by little, doing what you can, avoiding evil, the good that you can do depends on your circumstances and some other factors. So little by little, with the right motivation, with a good state of mind, with sincerity, so as the analogy that is given, drop by drop the jar is filled. So good, even a little at a time, it builds up, because the good that you do is filled with good intentions and motivations and sincerity. So lama-lama, just like the jar is filled with water, you have lots of good in you. The good karma begins to come out. And this is the important thing. The more good that you do, right, the more blessings will come. I think I have posted one story of Angulimala, who killed so many people. One version says he killed 999, and then he wanted to kill the Buddha. And then the Buddha approached him to help him. I think you can refer to that post in the comic form of the whole story. So he respected the Buddha. He was overwhelmed by the Buddha's metta and, the great holiness and so on. And he renounced under the Buddha and practiced and cultivated. He transformed. He did so much good. And then he cultivated the mind, the practice of Dhamma reflection and meditation until the fantastic amount of good, you can see, sort of cover up all the bad deeds. No chance for the bad deeds to ripen. If he had not got the good, he would go to hell actually, because of terrible killing. But because so much good, then the bad deeds cannot ripen out in the vipaka or the fruit. So never underestimate even the little good done properly is very important. So I wrote these contemplative lines. Now, it's very rare to be born a human being. So we should not waste our lives away, but live meaningfully. Now, what is meant by living meaningfully? Do not think that living meaningfully is acquiring more and more money and wealth, possessions, or titles. All of these, you know very well, are impermanent. You can't take anything with you. Even your own body cannot be taken by you when you pass away. So, to live meaningfully, to live a worthy life, is to live righteously. And to live wisely. Living righteously will be to follow proper morality, not to harm anybody, to do all the good that you can, and to live in wisdom. Now, of course, wisdom can come only when we learn and understand the Dhamma, to do what is needed to do, and to avoid doing those things that can harm you. So you live a life like this, you have lived well, right? That means you live meaningfully, right? So I remember some time ago, I read an article. I shared an article by Ajahn Brahm. So the article was something like living meaningfully, dying joyfully, right? You have lived a life that is full of worthy, and you will reap the reward in the afterlife. All religions believe that that does not end. All things, there will still be survival after that. Of course, Buddhists and Hindus always say there is rebirth or reincarnation. So you having good rebirths. You don't have to even wait until the future lives. This life itself, when you start doing the good, right, avoiding the evil, you find lots of blessings come. Unless your past lives have lots of bad karma, right? So they come. But not to worry, because the good that you have done, they will have the results. Maybe later part in life or future life, right? So when you have this understanding, then you'll be more peaceful in the mind. All the good things done by the wise will bring blessings certainly. If you live meaningfully by living righteously and wisely. That is this contemplative thing that you have to do constantly, right? Constantly. We have to remind our minds often, because sometimes, I know of people, right? They do quite well, like in the association, they will do dana, helping in the Sunday school service. But after maybe 2 years or so, then you say, brother, I have done my share already, enough already. Now it's the turn of these other people. All right? It's not like that, Huh? That you think that I've done my part already. The cultivation has to go on. The dana, the sila, the charity, the morality, and your meditation got to go on. You cannot say, I've done already, now it's the turn of the other person. So completely lacking in understanding, right? So this is verse 122 of the Dhammapada. Now you find I like all those pictures, you reflect on the pictures, they have a bearing on what the Buddha said, you see. And here, it's very important to have the reflection and the meditation. And that is bhavana. Bhavana is the practice of mental development or mental purification. And that is the way to uplift the mind spiritually, to gain in the joy, peace, and wisdom. Let us now go on to the next one, slide number 6. Now it is from Dhammapada, verse 118. Now, what does 118, verse 118 say? Should someone do good, let them do it again and again. They should develop this habit, for the accumulation of goodness brings joy. Actually, I touched on it just now already, this point, but then let me elaborate further. Now, our lives are not only in this life, right? Future lives also, we have to continue doing all the good things. Then only the blessings will continue. You have the blessings, right? And then you don't forget, you are living and you are enjoying the blessings, a comfortable house, going touring, good food, enjoying karaoke. All these, as Ajahn Dhammapada emphasizes so much, the blessings are being used. So when you don't have enough blessings or good karma already, then what can happen is the bad karma now can surface, and the time will come and you will meet with much dukkha. And Ajahn Dhammapada said most people will be born into the woeful state, like ghosts, for example. He was saying that one very good reason is because no more blessings, not enough blessings or good karma to support a future good state, like being born in the heaven or being born as a human being. So born as a ghost. I found this quite interesting point, because earlier I had learned also this important point was do not have craving and attachment. The attachment and craving can lead us to a woeful state. By being attached to people or to things and possessions can result in rebirth into perhaps the ghost realm. So I find these 2 points are also important. So I did this reflection. Dana, sila, and bhavana must be practiced well and continually. Very important, the word continually. And just now I give you the example of the person doing dana. After that, break already, stop and say you've done the part already, right? Dana, I have explained here for because there are many non-Buddhists also looking at the presentation. So I need to put in the meaning. Dana, giving or charity. Sila, morality. Bhavana can be best translated as mental development. So these are very important things to practice and must be practiced correctly, well, and continually. Not just do, 1 week I've done all these things already. I did charity. I kept my precept. After 1 month already. I said I meditated 1 month already, finished already. It's not like that. You have to continually You continually, you have to practice this from life to life until you become enlightened. No more suffering. That is the important thing we have to realize. That's why the Buddha reminded us, do again and again. And you know, when something is done repeatedly, like for example, a person that, always does meditation, right? And maybe listening to the Dhamma and so on. So what happens, and this is backed up by research, right? Neuroscience. So certain pathways are created in the brain, and the brain has a relationship with the mind. So you find your mind now will be saturated with many, many good things, that you carry along from life to life. And in the present life also, when you do these things so often, always doing these things, then they become easy. They become second nature to you. You are having a very good habit already. You are having a good conditioning. Like for example, you have done this so very often, every new moon, full moon, you will do your Buddha puja and contemplation and meditation. So it becomes your second nature. So that's why you have to do it again and again. And be patient. The good things will come and you will see joy and peace arising. No need to wait until future life. This life itself, you can experience it. So that is this very important Dhamma teaching. Now let us go on to the slide 7. This is from Dhammapada verse 80. Now, what does this verse say? Again, various versions. Now, it basically has these words: irrigators channel waters, fletchers straighten arrows, carpenters shape wood, the wise master themselves. Now, the first three things are, you can say, examples or analogies, right? Now, in a farmland or in a field where people want to plant crops, they have to plow the soil, and then also they have to make sure you have good flow of water, isn't it? To irrigate the canals, to direct the flow. If you don't have all those things, the crops, how to grow well? So there are people who will do the irrigation channels, so that the waters are directed properly to the maybe the rows of seeds that are being planted and so on. That's one aspect. And likewise also, you have people who those days make bows and arrows. People use bows and arrows. Now they use missiles, bombs, terrible, isn't it? Now, those days probably they use the bows and arrows to fight also. People like that, until today, people still fight. And then also to do the hunting. So, all that, but sometimes it's, the bow and arrow actually can be used in the proper way as a sport, right? Archery. The archery, you don't kill people. You just, have a spot and you aim at the bullseye, things like that. So it's a sport. It's quite okay. But then the arrows have to be properly made, If it's all, the arrows are crooked and things like that, then how can you use the arrows properly? So fletchers straighten the thing, do it properly. Carpenters also, you have pieces of wood, you want to make certain types of furniture and so on. You have to shape the wood. You have to maybe plane the wood and so on, or cut it or saw it or whatever. Then only you get the good result, isn't it? So likewise, the person, right, with a mind that is all confused, defiled, right, and not clear, very agitated, all this mind must be trained and shaped and tamed. Then only you will be a master of your mind. And the good things will happen when you train the mind, develop the mind, and the good qualities like calmness, joy, peace will arise. It's a very challenging task. That's why in another Dhammapada verse, there is this saying, you may conquer 1,000,000 men 1,000,000 times in battlefield, but if you conquer yourself, you are the greatest. It could be 1,000,000 or 1,000, but that is the essence. to conquer yourself. But if you don't conquer yourself through the good Dhamma practice of Dana, Sila, Bhavana, very important, the meditation, then your mind will be just like, a useless piece of wood, right? You cannot get good things out of it. It's not properly shaped and got ready to make something. So this is a very important thing. And my reflective lines are as follows. Wise ones train their minds. They conquer greed, hatred, and delusion. This will lead them to true peace, happiness, and liberation. Now, I did this contemplation in the morning, and these words came. It's very true that when you say you're training the mind, what actually are you trying to achieve? Basically, you have to lessen and eventually conquer these three mental poisons that cause your mind to be weak, that make you suffer, right? That make you have lots of mental disease. And the three mental poisons are greed, hatred, delusion. So the mind has to be trained to develop through the Dhamma practice. Actually, the best way is the Noble Eightfold Path. Then you find that the greed, hatred, and delusion begin to fall, and then arising will be the true joy, peace, happiness, and eventually liberation, freedom. Freedom from being imprisoned by the devils of greed, hatred, delusion. That is a very important thing, a goal for you to arrive at, to rid of all mental defilements. And the three primary ones, greed, hatred, delusion. So this is another very important Dhamma teaching of training the mind. This is the bhavana aspect. The bhavana, just now I said, translates as mental development, or you can say mental purification or mental cultivation. And there are ways in the Dhamma practice. Of course, you still have to do the charity, the helping, to observe the morality. And then this bhavana now, supported by the other two, you need to do meditation. You need to listen and contemplate constantly on the Dhamma, the Buddha's words, listening to the suttas, reading the suttas or the discourses of the Buddha. Then only the mind can be shaped or directed or trained or tamed. So that is this important thing. Now let us go on to the next one, which is slide number 8. This is from verse 39 of the Dhammapada. Now, what does it read? There is no fear for an awakened one whose mind is not sodden by lust, nor afflicted by hate, and who has gone beyond both married and demarried. Now, this can be very, very profound. Now, let me try to explain a bit. Right. Now, you see, we are all asleep, not awakened. That means the mind is still filled with a lot of all those deluded views, filled with a lot of the mental poisons, such as I say, greed, hatred, delusion. It's just like a person, you are having a dream, you are not awake, so you don't see the reality yet, So an unawakened worldling like us will be experiencing the dukkha, the suffering, the problems, the conflict, the trouble because of the impurities in the mind. All the negative things like, covetousness, greed, hate, jealousy, aversion, ill will, and also conceit, ego, ignorance. All those are the mental poisons, not the Satan coming to cause you to be like that. Your inner defilements. So it's only through the Dhamma practice that one day you become enlightened. You are awake. So when you are awake, you are able to see things as they are, and all those mental poisons are got rid from your mind already. Then there is no self. You realize that there is no ego or a permanent self inside you. Then there is no fear. When people have fear, it's because of a self. One of the things is that the self that you're thinking, oh yeah, after my family, kena lah, after I lose this, I lah, me lah, mine, all this, So you are always very fearful of something being done to you, where in actual fact, there is no self actually. But this is a bit deep already. But anyway, if you practice on and you lessen the lust or the unwholesome desires, right? A mind that is not soaked, sodden will be like soaked or saturated by all these unwholesome desires, like lust and the greed. And then also you are not troubled or burdened. You are not affected adversely by anger, hate, aversion, ill will. So the awakened one no longer have this. In fact, the awakened one has gone into that ultimate unconditioned state. No good, no bad. No black, no white. That is called non-duality. This is a bit high level already. So gone beyond that already. So the mind is awakened, right? Enlightened. Perfect happiness, perfect peace, perfect freedom, liberation. And I wrote this. These are a bit more difficult, this verse. The enlightened mind with no more defilements is free from all dukkha. So that is the awakened mind. So one who has awakened, his mind has come to an unconditioned state. It doesn't depend on the worldly conditions and so on. It is the original unconditioned state beyond space, time, or causality. And that is the real home that we return to. And that is Nibbana, the ultimate unconditioned state of perfect peace and happiness. So I can just summarize until here because of a time factor. So now let us go on to slide number 9. Now it's from verse 35 of the Dhammapada. And what does it say? Wonderful indeed it is to subdue the mind, so difficult to subdue, ever swift and seizing whatever it desires. A tamed mind brings happiness. An untamed mind brings dukkha and suffering. And in fact, you find the mind, the most important thing. It's like really like a terrible monkey, runs all over. It's so difficult to subdue. Subdue would imply to conquer it, to overcome it. To be able to control it. It's just like the monkey that always runs here and there. Now, if you go into meditation, you can see for yourself very clearly. Some friends want to meditate, right? But they come and say that we want to meditate, but actually you cannot meditate. They already conditioned the mind. They say, my mind always runs one. I say, whose mind doesn't run? Everybody's mind also like a monkey. But whether you have the patience, the determination, the perseverance, right, to pursue this, just like the monkey running all over, but you have that determination, patience, and so on. You don't let the monkey just wander all around, all over. I can go up to London also. You got to catch the monkey. And after having caught the monkey, you cannot just place it in one place. You will run again. So you have to cari a tiang. You have to find a very strong post, right? Very strong pillar maybe. And then you have to tie the monkey to the pillar. You cannot use an ordinary rope. You probably have to use a steel chain, very strong. So you tie that monkey to the post there or to the pillar. The monkey doesn't like it. It's the nature. He wants to struggle and then he wants to run away. But already chained to that tiang, the center thing. So time comes, it's quite quiet. Learn have to sit down, right? Tired already. Now you see that the monkey now finally sits down there and then asks, Tuan, sekarang saya boleh buat apa? This is a very good example of our mind. That we tame it, the time comes that you have conquered the mind and now you are in control of the mind. And that state is taming the mind. The mind is conquered. You have overcome all the terrible things like restlessness, and then sensual desires, and all those things. Then joy, peace, happiness, and wisdom arise. The mind settles, very clear. You can see things as they truly are. That is a tame mind. And the Buddha said, a tame mind brings happiness. And if you reach the peak there, that is enlightenment. Now, of course, I can say all these words that you need to practice and test out for yourself. Right? You can just, I believe it. But you don't do anything about it. You don't test out. You test out patiently, with determination, step by step. Then you can see the difference in your mind. That you have maybe not complete control yet, but you are improving stage by stage, gradually. And then you feel the joy. Wow, many things, good things are happening already. Even people, are pessimistic and, no patience. Cannot one, very difficult. You are conditioning your mind, cannot. You think cannot. You must always have that attitude. I can, I will try, and I can succeed. Positive thinking. So my reflective thoughts will put into words like this. The untrained mind is conquered by sensual desires, ill will, and restlessness. Now, actually, there are 5 hindrances. I picked these 3. 5 hindrances that always cut out the minds, especially like meditation, but also in our everyday lives. But these 3 I have picked for you because they are very important. Then if we are always caught up in the game of pursuing sensual pleasures and delights only, thinking that this will give us the final peace, then you'll be disillusioned. You eat and eat and eat the durian, you get sick. You tour this place, you tour that place, and so on. You get so tired and then you fall sick, overdoing it, right? Or you clash with people. You don't understand, no wisdom arising, more anger, ill will. And you're always restless, like as I said just now, the monkey mind cannot settle. So that is the untrained mind. When the mind is trained, then you find things happen. This you have to test out for yourself, right? So the next line of these couplets are very important. Until and unless the mind is trained and tamed, it will not have true peacefulness. It will not have true happiness. It will not have true joy. And you cannot see things clearly. Hardly any wisdom can arise. Because the mind is very cloudy, muddy, cloudy, filled with weeds, colored, right? So how are you going to see the true nature of things? So when you cannot see the true nature of things, then there is no wisdom. That's why in the world today, you see there's so much dukkha, so much suffering, all this, because human minds are filled with defilements. So that is the primary reason why there's so much dukkha all over, because the minds are not trained. No peacefulness. And people think they mistake worldly happiness and pleasures for true happiness and true peace. They think that if you have lots of money and then you have possessions, you have titles, you are very powerful, sometimes in the corrupted way also, and you have all those worldly things, then you have happiness. If that's the case, why is it that you hear of so many suicides? I think you know the K-pop singers, right? Even the Hollywood stars, so many of them. Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and then the K-pop, Leslie Cheung, Leslie Cheung, not the K-pop. The K-pop also you have that. Why? They have so many things, fame, and then also beauty, and then they have wealth, and then they can get all the people or things they want, but yet they commit suicide because the mind is filled with the defilements. So you can see the truth of it. So this is a very important Dhamma teaching. Now let us go on to number 10. This is from Dhammapada verse 6, which is also very important. There are those who do not realize that one day we all must die. But those who do realize this settle their quarrels. It is very, very important. If you can see this, wow, you're able to let go of so many terrible things, the rubbish in your mind, the negative forces that bring you suffering all along the life, as well as future lives, because you do not see it. You maybe say, I know lah, everybody must die, ma. We are born, then we age, we get sick, and then we die. And that is intellectually understanding it. As I say, you can sit for exam, you can state all these things and get an A, but you don't really feel it. You don't really see it. You don't really realize it. Your mind has not changed. Still stuck with the old habits. Intellectually, you know, you can actually give a talk, you can also lecture, even write books and so on, but yet the mind is still filled with the greed, the anger, the hatred, and so on. So to realize this, the fact of aging, sickness, death, we have to practice. We have to practice the Dhamma. Until you see it already, then you say, oh, it's so foolish of me to bear the grudge and the revengeful feeling against this person, my enemy, right? Then you find a transformation takes place. I'll be more forgiving. I let go. I don't bear ill will already. I suffuse my mind with kindness and compassion. All the good things coming. And then the time comes and you have to close your eyes to go to the next bird already. Then you are peaceful and joyful. So you see how important this is. So the reflective lines that I wrote also very, very important. Life is uncertain. It's true. You don't know, anything can happen. That is certain. That one nobody can deny. Can you guarantee yourself that you will live until 90 years old or 80 years old? Can you say that you postpone your death until you are past 100? No. Anytime the Prince of Death can come, put the hands on your shoulder, time for you to go. And then certain sudden deaths also can happen, accidents, or suddenly you get struck by a terrible sickness, only 6 more months to live. So life is uncertain. So what we have now, if we are wise, then we make very, very good use, a life that is full of word, full of meaning, benefiting yourself and others. So we have to really actualize this teaching that life is uncertain, that is certain. Many, many years ago, maybe 40 or when I was young, one of the early books of Buddhism that I read was just a booklet, free distribution book, written by the late Chief Reverend Dhammapada. It's titled this way: life is uncertain, that is certain. Then it really made an impact on me. It's so true, you see. And then really my interest in the Dhamma started. Right? That was, I think, maybe 40 years ago already. So you see, this fact none can deny. Correct? Nobody can deny that. So when you know this, we know this is just not intellectually, but we see this, we realize this already. Then you find you are quite wise already to a certain extent. Then you let go of all the bad mental states already, of greed, anger, jealousy, hatefulness, aversion, pride, ego, conceit, all those negative things that really burden our mind, all these things. Attachments are craving. All this you let go and you find your mind becomes very light. And then you will not be so fearful of that. So you see how very important this Dhamma teaching is. It's very true, you know. You can't really predict when you're going to die, how you're going to die. You only know that that is certain. The point of that is uncertain. That means when you're going to die. And then also how you're going to die, you also don't know, right? When you're going to die, how you're going to die, you also don't know. So when we reflect on this, then we know that we have to utilize our time wisely, because we don't know when. But people, sometimes they behave, especially you see you read the scandals, and people want more and more, cheat people, a lot of money, isn't it? I think you know of the YMBD scandal and all those things. Terrible, a lot. You read the papers, all those things. People, the mind is so clouded with the delusion, they cannot see this already. And the time will come, they will be filled with regret, remorse, guilt. All those things can come in the later stage of your life, or you will experiencing in your next life. You can't escape the law of karma. Whether you are a high person, low person, you are a king, or you're just an ordinary laborer, all subjected to the same universal law of karma. So this is very good Dhamma for thought and reflection. Now let us go on to the next one, which is number 11. That is the last of the Dhammapada verses I have picked. And that is actually the gist, you can say, of Dhamma teachings also. I remember one stage when there was a seminar or workshop organized in the hospital in relation to helping the HIV patients or the AIDS patients and so on. So it was an interfaith thing. So I had to represent Buddhism from our association. And then there were people of other religions, right? Christianity, Islam, Taoism, Hinduism. So of course, in a very diverse setting of people with different religions, I cannot just go and just talk all those Buddhist terms, everything. It makes no sense to them. And they also might not believe, isn't it? So this was what I center my talk on. Just this. Right? So they are interested to know what the Buddha taught. So I say just this. The Buddha taught in the 45 years this thing only. To cease to do evil, to cultivate the good, and to purify the heart. That's all. And then I, developed the talk based on these three things. That means to avoid evil, do good, and develop and purify the mind or heart, you would say. That's all. Then I, of course, gave stories and all those stuff. And later on, very interesting, the people representative of the other religions, they say, Mr. O, it's very true. This one, yeah, everybody can accept. It's a universal truth, isn't it? Now, let us go further and reflect on this. Now, in order to do all these things, you reflect on the lines I've written. Do keep the moral precepts most conscientiously. And that is the morality part, right? To keep the moral precepts, basically it boils down to this. Not to do anything using your body or your speech, or even having in your mind evil thoughts and so on, that will harm yourself and can harm other people also. That's basically the gist of it. A morality based on this, not to harm yourself and other people. Well, that means already, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no abusive speech, no slander, and no gossiping, and then leading to rumors and so on. You know this. But how conscientious are we in practicing this? So we have to remind ourselves very, very often so that we keep on doing this good thing, following the precepts. And then also, we not only do the negative aspect. I don't kill, I don't steal, I don't take people's wives or husbands, but the opposite you must do. You must do the good things. This is cultivating the good. Opposite of the other one. To cultivate the good, to help people, to do charity, to be kind, using kind words, service selflessly, all sorts of things, do good deeds. And then to, finally, the last part, the most challenging, to purify, develop the mind. So not just 2 days only, no, all throughout, life to life, develop and purify the mind unfailingly. Like meditation, I told you, you've got to go on and on, listening to Dhamma also. So that is a very important verse for us to reflect again and again. And now come the final slide already, right? The end. Now, what did I write? I just thought about it, and then sometimes early in the morning, very quiet. I usually, do most of the things around 3 a.m. And I find in the quiet and in solitude, then you find the Dhamma can come more easily for me lah. So I say this: the Dhammapada has a well of Dhamma to lessen mental disease. Wise ones reflect on words of truth and wisdom and put them into practice. When you practice constantly, you are on the path to freedom, peace, and bliss. Actually, I use the poetic form of the couplets, rhyming and rhythm. Now, you see that the Dhammapada is sometimes also considered as the treasury of truth. So for Buddhists, the Buddha's utterances are words of wisdom and truth. And just now when I presented those verses, you can reflect for yourself whether they are truthful and wise or not. You can check for yourself. So if we study these verses, so many of them, I told you there are more than 400 over, and reflect on, then you find things happen to the mind. The mental disease, disease means your mind now is not so troubled. Less problems, less conflicts, less agitation, less restlessness, more calm, more tranquil, more peaceful. That means not uneasy. Many people are suffering that mental disease with the restlessness and the conflict in the mind, isn't it? So you find this is one good way we can use to learn, reflect, and practice based on the words of the Dhammapada. So when we constantly reflect on these words, that's how what we did, the verses of truth and wisdom. After that, we must try to put into practice, like maybe meditation on metta, loving kindness, and then doing charity. We have to practice not just words only. Then when you practice constantly with the reflection, you are actually on the path already to freedom, peace, and bliss. And that is the true freedom, peace, and bliss. Not the worldly pleasures and happiness that are really transient and they can bring you to dukkha. So this will grow on and on until you become enlightened. So that is the message I was trying to convey. So now, I have spoken, right, for more than 1 hour already. Just on these 10 verses out of 400 over. So it is my hope, I wish also, that you are able to gain important Dharma from the discussion on these selected verses of the Dhammapada. Now you can actually get copies of the Dhammapada very easily. I can say, the most popular of the Buddhist scriptures. So many, the Buddha in these scriptures, I think there are more than 10,000 suttas. Some of them are repeated. So minus the repeated ones, you still have more than 5,000. And some of them are quite profound. Mostly, some most suitable for monks and nuns. For lay people, Dhammapada is a very suitable one. Then we also do some others in the Nikayas. So if you cannot get a physical copy, then you can just Google and download from the internet free of charge. So many versions you can, and then you are determined from time to time, or some make it a practice, a discipline. Every day will read one verse and reflect on that verse. That is good also. And if you are able to get the versions with the stories, there are also the stories there. Some versions have stories, and I think some of the postings have done some postings using the Dhammapada stories, right? So before we say sadhu 3 times, I would like to say sadhu and express my thanks to all brothers and sisters in the Dharma, to the youth members, to all who are following this presentation. I would like to say thank you and sadhu to all of you for spending time and also energy and also practicing concentration and mindfulness to follow this presentation. Right. So let us put our palms together and say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be well, happy, and peaceful. And may the Dharma be with all of you always. Take care.